Adventurers! Welcome to the Last Draft. It's me, Barkeep, also known as Chris. This is the Last Draft's first official world building stream. We'll be crafting the world the Last Draft exists in. Today we'll be creating a small settlement / trading outpost that adventurers first starting out in this world are very likely to come across. But before that, I wanted to summarize the world as we know it so far, so that people new to the tavern can be caught up on the lore. So, as you can see, there's a map right here, and this is the world in which the Last Draft exists. I guess I should actually explain for people who potentially don't know at all. The Last Draft Tavern is a D&D like sketch show / like fantasy world building thing where I pretend to be a bartender in a fantasy world that's inspired by Dungeons and Dragons and other fantasy genres and IPs and whatnot. I started off just kind of with the plan to make silly little D&D content, and it turned into creating a larger world for people to play in, and that's kind of what I'm working towards at this point, is building out this world slowly as I make these silly little videos. As you can see, this map here, this town here in the middle called Respite is the town in which the Last Draft exists in. The Last Draft is a tavern filled with very powerful adventurers, and so having come up with that first idea, I had to think about how a tavern like that could exist, specifically an adventurer's tavern, which is what the Last Draft is. And so starting off with that idea, as I started world building, I began to think of what kind of city or what kind of town would have so many different kinds of adventurers that they would have their own bar, their own tavern that they call home. And so with that, I came up with Respite, which is a adventurer's city. And had to think about, like, why is this city in particular have so many different adventurers in it? So that the reasoning I thought was, like, this place must be pretty dang dangerous if there are adventurers constantly coming to and through here. So the Heart Peak Pass, which you can see here, all these different mountains, these different mountain passes are these sort of strange and dangerous magical valleys that kind of dip into different planes of existences. So there's the Primal Pass, which dips into like the elemental planes of fire, water, earth, and air. You have the Verdant Pass, which kind of is along the border of the Feywild and like the strange natural magical realm of the fairies. Frozen Pass is just as it says in the name, a frozen tundra, with that big, if you see in the thing, there is a big open white circle that has this kind of eternal blizzard that people can't really travel through. And then the Shadow Pass dips into the Shadowfell, which is the place. There's the ruling place of the god of death, in a sort of creepy, cursed, shadowy place. The city of Respite is one of the only large cities within several hundred miles of the Heart Peak Mountains, these series of mountain ranges that bisect the northern and southern continents. Respite resides in the southern continent, which is known as Karth, and there are dozens of various different mountain passes that go through the Heart Peak Mountains. But there are 6 major ones that are the biggest ones and the most frequently traveled. And there are various indigenous peoples that live in this expanse. Actually, this whole map here would be known as the Heart Peak Wilds. And a lot of these people know secret pathways that maneuver through the mountains to unexplored places that bend the mind and warp reality. This town's biggest export, oddly enough, is adventurers. Many of the greatest heroes in the world cut their teeth in the dangerous mountain passes that teem with the magic of the cosmos. For decades, powerful people from across the world have made the dangerous trek to the Heart Peak Wilds to train as adventurers and as heroes, and many of them have lost their lives seeking glory or succumbing to greed. Untold histories and ancient treasures are known to dot the shifting landscapes of the Heart Peak Wilds, and many people are drawn to its mysteries. So that's a general overview of the area in which the Last Draft is based. A place where the border between reality and different planes of existence is very thin, and where magic and monsters are abundant. I actually did want to talk a little bit about its history, the town's history, and kind of where I got the idea for this town. So one of the major kind of organizations within Respite is called the Adventurers Guild, which is probably the most powerful organization in the city. It is where adventurers from all over the world have to register with the Adventurers Guild so that they are official. And over the many years of its existence, the Adventurers Guild has kind of become it's almost like a union, if that makes sense, a union for adventurers. And so they work with other governments of different countries, of like small towns. And so basically, if you are known to be scabbing as an adventurer, it's not good. It's not good for you. And so that the Adventurers Guild was one of the first things that I kind of came up with, because once I decided that this town was a huge town for adventurers, I thought it would make sense that there was some kind of governing body for them. And I also kind of wanted to harken back to different like MMORPGs, or a lot of anime has like the Adventurers Guild thing, and I kind of wanted to. I'd never seen that done before in any of the D&D games that I've played in, where there is like usually adventurers are just like random, crazy, powerful people that end up becoming heroes or villains and dooming or saving the whole world. So I thought an interesting idea or interesting idea was to have this kind of guild, this organization that adventurers kind of have to answer to. I come from a union family, union strong, and I've done a lot of research about like the labor uprisings in the 1800s in America. And so a lot of the inspiration that I've drawn for the Adventurers Guild comes through that. So I don't think this is anything I've talked about in any of my videos, but a long time ago, there was an empire in the country to the south that sort of exploited adventurers and would send them into the wilds, into the Heart Peak Mountains, under-equipped, with bad party balances, not enough people in their parties, and basically used and abused adventurers so that they could collect the different artifacts and relics and various other interesting things that you would find in these various magical valleys. And at some point, these adventurers decided that they didn't need a massive empire forcing them to collect things for them and die for them for very little money. So that's kind of how Respite got its start. It started as a sort of company town for adventurers, but then through fighting for themselves and fighting for each other, was able to kick the empire out and form this town, Respite, which then became its own city, maybe even like a town, or not a town, like a country. Like this whole swath of the Heart Peak Wilds that you see right here is Respite's territory, for the most part, and fully kicked the empire out. But yeah, so a lot of what I want to do as I go forward building the Adventurers Guild and Respite is harkening back to those like company towns where miners and railroad workers and steel mill people would be forced into these towns, given a scrip to pay, like, instead of getting actual physical money, they would get some kind of like company credit that they could then spend at the company store to buy things at exorbitant prices. So, yeah, drawing those parallels, because I think that's something that's very interesting. So there are various different guilds and factions within Respite. They sort of, like, I guess you could call it like a democratic system. Essentially, there is a council, which is a collection of guilds and factions and representatives from the different districts that decide the fate of Respite and its policies. And then there's a mayor who resides over the council and is mostly there to like settle ties or to like run the meetings and ensure a fair balance between all the different factions. However, like everything is, really everyone is vying for more control of the town. Though it might appear to be this sort of almost anarchical paradise on the surface, the closer you look this is a town that is very wealthy, and there's a lot of money comes through here, and where there is a lot of money, there will be corrupt people. So there's the Adventurers Guild, which I talked about, the Merchants Guild, which are kind of work hand in hand with the Adventurers Guild, but they also have this sort of rivalry. And it's also one of the more powerful guilds because they are in charge of selling the things the adventurers bring back from the mountains. There's the Laborers Guild, which is a sort of general union for like general laborers for the city. The Cultivator Guild, which is for like farmers and that sort of thing. The Artisan Guild is for your blacksmiths, your leather makers, like anyone who crafts stuff, like crafts materials. There's the People's Guild, which is a recent guild that is where the common folk of Respite banded together to form their own faction because they did not feel represented by their district representatives. So they all formed a kind of coalition together to make sure that those who are not in a guild are spoken for. So the people who are pushed to the side often, like elderly people or the disabled, the People's Guild represents them. And then I've mentioned them a couple times. There are the district representatives. I haven't really broken the city into districts yet. Maybe that's something that we'll do on a later stream. But it's just elected officials from the different districts of Respite who are supposed to fight for the will of the people. but often are, manipulated or bribed or, what have you from the various other guilds. And then the last faction is the City Watch, which are the guards of the town, and they have a sort of, let's say they are tied to the Merchant Guild in a way, and have a rivalry with the Adventurers Guild. And sort of believe that the adventurers bring problems to the town. Or at least that's the general opinion of a lot of the City Watch guards. Which, hey, who's to say that they're wrong? Adventurers bring all kinds of shit to their respective towns. I can't even tell you how many towns that I've been to where I was just like, oh, fucking random dragon, or oh, just a bunch of zombies came out of the sewers that nobody knew about somehow. That kind of thing. Trouble just follows adventurers, that's all I'm saying. Alright, I'm starving. I'm gonna eat this pizza that's next to me. Thank you so much, adventurers, for coming and watching this stream and watching me bumble my way through it. I appreciate every single one of you out there. You're all beautiful. See ya on the next quest.